Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shong. Wall Street Journal this week reported that Beijing accused American officials of harassing Chinese airline and shipping crews that arrive in the U.S. in attempts to single out Communist Party members. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said U.S. law enforcement personnel have recently conducted surprise raids on sailors aboard arriving Chinese ships and questioned arriving Chinese airline crews to ascertain whether they are members of the Communist Party. She didn't offer details. Beijing has lodged complaints with Washington and demanded an end to the alleged harassment. The U.S. Departments of State and Homeland Security didn't respond to requests to comment. A spokeswoman for U.S. Customs and Border Protection said she couldn't comment without knowing more specifics, but that the agency, quote, is committed to fair, impartial, and respectful treatment of all members of the trade and the traveling public, unquote. Application forms for foreign nationals seeking U.S. visas for temporary travel to the country, including crew member visas, have included a question on whether the applicant is a member of or affiliated with the Communist or other totalitarian party. Putting greater scrutiny on personnel with Chinese state airlines in the U.S. is part of an escalating Trump administration pressure campaign against Beijing. The issue came up in 2016 when investigations into bribery at the United Nations led to accusations that a US-based manager for Air China helped smuggle packages for the Chinese military. The manager later pleaded guilty to acting as an agent for the Chinese government. Investigations this year into the U.S. activities of Chinese researchers with ties to China's military also found that Chinese airline personnel were reminding the researchers to wipe clean their electronic devices in case they were questioned by law enforcement before boarding. Those findings fed into the larger policy discussion about further get-tough measures against Beijing. Members of China's ruling Communist Party participate in virtually all types of interaction that China has with the U.S., from big business to tourism and cultural exchange. Chinese state-run newspaper China Daily reported, as of November 11, U.S. law enforcement officers and plainclothes personnel had boarded 21 ships owned by 2 Chinese state enterprises, Costco Shipping and Shanghai Zhenhua Heavy Industries Corporation, including 16 vessels that were inspected over the course of 25 days in October. Most of the affected ships were boarded immediately after they berthed. U.S. officials conducted extensive questioning of Chinese personnel that focused on Communist Party members and sometimes lasted several hours. Let us have a brief read of the U.S. history regarding communists. On August 24, 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower signed the Communist Control Act, which outlaws the Communist Party of the United States and criminalizes membership in or support for the party or communist action organizations. The act has since been ruled unconstitutional in federal court, but has not been ruled on in the Supreme Court and has never been enforced. U.S. immigration law contains a decades-old provision making anyone affiliated with a Communist Party ineligible for a green card or citizenship. But in practice, very few people get excluded on the basis of party membership. That is due to a variety of factors, including light enforcement, waivers, and because the immigrant visa form only asks about current, not past, membership. Beijing has dealt with this restriction for decades. The CCP has a set procedure that allows members to apply to have their party membership cancelled in advance of temporary travel abroad. The process allows party members to remain in good standing so that they can rejoin the party after they return. Party members often aren't able to fulfill membership requirements while abroad, such as participating in meetings and paying dues. So, this procedure gives members the ability to go abroad without facing disciplinary action for allowing their membership to lapse. On June 15, Representative Guy Reschenthaler, a Republican from Pennsylvania, introduced H.R. 7724, the End Chinese Communist Citizenship Act. This bill would tailor further provisions in U.S. immigration law preventing the naturalization of immigrants who possess membership in a totalitarian organization and specifically target members of the Chinese Communist Party. Given the fact that China's spying operation against the U.S. is vast and occupies embassies, universities, and the highest levels of American corporations, the U.S. is not alone as a target of China's espionage. The People's Republic built an extensive spy network in Africa, in European universities, among European Union staff, and even among Russian climate researchers. Despite the clear antagonistic relationship between China and the United States and China's hostility toward other countries in general, the U.S. still distributed more than 27,000 of immigrant visas to Chinese nationals in fiscal year 2019, outnumbering the total number of visas given to all of South America. The majority of Chinese arrived not because of any special skills, but because of their relationship to family members already in the United States. Over 81% of Chinese immigrants in 2019 entered the U.S. because of chain migration. The proposed End Chinese Communist Citizenship Act ensures that CCP members could not enter the U.S. even if they had family members already living in the United States. Because the CCP is opposed to the United States and considers the U.S. an enemy. The bill could not come at a more opportune time for the United States as we begin to recover economically from the crisis of the Wuhan coronavirus. China initially refused to allow Centers for Disease Control researchers into Wuhan until it became clear their own scientists could not handle the outbreak on their own. China also threatened to throw America into the mighty sea of the coronavirus due to the fact that they controlled most of the U.S. medical supply chain. The CCP and its membership have nothing positive to offer Americans. Instead of kowtowing to Chinese interests, the U.S. should take this small step towards protecting our national security by refusing to admit CCP members to the United States. Banning CCP members from becoming American citizens is hardly radical and long overdue. In China, the Communist Party has almost 88 million members, or 1 in 16 Chinese. CCP members hold nearly every top position in government, military, education, state-owned enterprises, healthcare, and banking. If you are not in the party, there is definitely a glass ceiling. The Trump administration has already placed numerous travel restrictions on Chinese people from a variety of groups and backgrounds. All Chinese nationals in the U.S. on a journalist visa must apply for visa renewal every 90 days. Chinese graduate students pursuing degrees in certain sensitive science and technology fields must now renew their visas each year. The State Department restricts visas for CCP officials deemed complicit in China's authoritarian takeover of Hong Kong or in human rights abuses in Xinjiang. On July 15, the State Department also announced visa bans for certain employees of Chinese tech companies involved in human rights abuses. This week, The North Atlantic Treaty Organization released a high-level assessment report saying that NATO should devote much more of its time and resources to security threats posed by China, even while seeking to deter Russian aggression. The report will be discussed by NATO foreign ministers who are convening Tuesday and Wednesday by the first time, address the rise of China with colleagues from non-NATO member countries. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told reporters on Monday, I quote, "China does not share of our values. It does not respect fundamental human rights and tries to intimidate other countries," unquote. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.